Well, I have a thought for you today. I was out running, and I guess I do my best thinking while I'm running. And I had recently listened to a message, and it talked about being stuck in a story. And it talked about how when Jesus was in the desert for 40 days fasting and praying, and how when Satan came to him, that he actually came to him with the truth. And it talked about how oftentimes the thing that is going to most hold us captive is not necessarily a lie, like we're smart people, and sometimes maybe we can believe lies, but a lot of times it's not going to be a lie that we're holding on to, but a truth. And it made me think about how in our lives sometimes there are truths, stories, circumstances that we've lived in or lived through, and they still hold us captive. So, for example, at one point or another, there may have been some tremendous pain or something that's happened, and it was true. Like your reality, the event, everything that happened was true. Maybe the way you were raised, maybe going through a divorce, maybe some sort of relationship with a parent or something that caused a lot of pain. And at that point in your life, it was true. And yet our thought processes can take us back to that pain and hold us captive to that pain. For myself, I can remember in the last recent year having a moment where I was looking at myself in the mirror and I was retelling myself a story in my head that morning. And I was loathing in pain and anguish. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and just being like, how long are you going to allow this story to control your life? Like, at what point are you going to step out of this story and not allow it to be true anymore? At what point are you going to stop telling yourself the same thing? So maybe it was true 5 years ago, maybe it was true at one point, but it's time to sever the suffering. It's time to walk out of that story into a new truth. And I love in the message I was listening to, it talked about how when Satan came to Jesus and he said, the word of the Lord says this, and Jesus said, well, it's also true. So yes, that's true, but it's also true. So there was a point where the story that you're telling yourself was true, but it's also true that you can now live in a new reality, or it's also true that you don't have to allow that story or those circumstances to still hold you captive and to still cause so much pain in your life. And I thought that was a really interesting perspective. What would it take to sever the suffering for you today?